Farm-to-Table. And if you remember, each month we go to a different farming community. Where did we go last month? Who remembers where we went? Who did we learn about? Yes, Maddie?
Farmers.
Farmers, and in particular, which farmers? What did they do? What did they grow? Maddie?
They grew food.
They grew food. What food in particular?
Peppers.
Peppers? And where did they grow? Where did you grow yours?
At the garden.
In the garden. And what were you?
Farmers.
You were farmers and
Gardeners.
gardeners. Yes, excellent. Well, this month we're going to learn about a different farming community, okay? And we're going to go to an orchard. How many of you have been to an orchard? Isn't it a fun place?
Yeah.
Okay, and did you know the person who cares for them, like you were a gardener in your garden? An orchard needs an orchardist. Now, we don't often use that term, but that is what they are. They're an orchardist, and they're an expert on how to care for the apple trees. Okay? And I kind of let this out of the bag. What grows in an orchard?
Apples.
Apples, and they grow on trees. Yes. So last month we talked about plants that were in the dirt and peppers and carrots and stuff like that. Well, this plant is a tree. Okay? So in an orchard, we find trees. Now, it could be a cherry tree. It could be a pear tree. There's all sorts of orchards, including oranges and lemons. Okay? But we're going to specifically talk about apple trees. Now, I love this part because what does a tree start from? Where does it start? Maddie?
A seed.
A seed. Did you know what the seeds of the apples are called? It's a really cool name. Can you read that, Beckett?
Pips.
Pips! Isn't that a cool name for a seed? Now, there's something special about the apple orchard, okay? Because we need friends. And a lot of times, if I see one, I run, okay? They are
Bees.
bees. Now, other insects work just as well. But often when you go to an orchard, an apple orchard, you will see beehives nearby. And they have a very special job. And that job starts with the letter P.
Pollinate.
Pollinate. So the orchardist needs pollinators. Because you know what? If they didn't have pollinators, have you ever seen an apple orchard before there's any apples? They get these pretty white flowers. Okay? And they're called buds. But guess what? If there were no bees and they didn't pollinate, we wouldn't get a single apple. So the more pollinators we have, the more apples we will get. Okay? So last month we talked about harvesting our vegetables. So how do you think you harvest apples? How do you harvest apples? What did you do, Beck?
We pick them off the tree.
You pick them off the tree?
Sometimes, if the apples were super high, we'd have to use like a special apple helper.
So when it's harvest time, when apples are ready, we go pick them. Okay? So today's whole class will center around our pollinator friends and apples. We're going to talk about the life cycle of an apple. So the very first thing, before we even go into an orchard, what does the orchardist have to do? Plant what?
Seeds.
Seeds. And Beck, can you put that up and tell us what that special word is? Okay? Seeds are
Pips.
very good. So once the pips start growing, what do we get?
We get trees.
We get trees. Now, do you see, is there something absent from that tree?
Yes, there is.
What is absent?
Flowers.
Flowers and
Apples.
apples. Okay? So once the tree is growing, then we get what? In the
Flowers.
springtime, we see these flowers, the blossoms and the buds. And then we get our friends who come in, and we're going to talk a little bit about who are our friends.
Bees.
Bees, and they do what?
They pollinate.
We have talked about pollen and pollinators and pollination, and how important it is if we're going to have apples. What we're going to do, the bees and the butterflies and the insects don't even know the important job they have. They are just attracted to nectar, which is really a sweet liquid that they go from flower to blossom to bud. And somehow when they're there, they get this yellow stuff called pollen, and it sticks to their feet. So they go to the next flower and they drop a little pollen. And that is how we get pollination. So what we're going to do is, Beckett, show us your pollinator. You have Mr. Bee and you have beautiful butterfly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go from flower to flower. They have some nectar and pollen on their plates, and they're just going to go around, and we're going to see how these flowers are pollinated. Before we get to here, we have to have our pollinators. So once we get the apples, we go to the orchard and we what?
Pick them.
Pick them. And what do we get?
Apple
Apples. And we take them home and we make what?
Apple pie.
That's right. And where does that apple pie go?
Into your stomach.
Yes, yummy, yummy in my tummy. So can you think of anything else that is made with apples that you just love? One thing.
Apple butter.
Apple butter?
Say apple butter.
Apple butter, wonderful.